Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that honestly sounds like something out of a geopolitical thriller. We're talking about the United States' renewed and very serious ambition to buy Greenland. It's a high-stakes move, and it's sending massive shockwaves all the way from Washington to Copenhagen.
So it all really kicked into high gear in early 2025 with this incredibly blunt statement from the White House. And let me tell you, this was not just some off-the-cuff remark. This single sentence reignited a centuries-old American interest and, almost overnight, turned what most people thought was an absurd idea into a full-blown international crisis.
You have to wonder, right? How did we get here? How did this wild real estate proposal suddenly become a genuine geopolitical flashpoint? Well, that's the question that's got diplomats scrambling, so let's break it down.
It really all started with a declaration, a couple of words that totally set the stage for this entire high-stakes showdown. And look, this wasn't just some promise made on the campaign trail. This was a crystal-clear signal that, for the incoming administration, grabbing Greenland had shifted from being a weird, fringe idea to a central, core foreign policy objective.
So why? Why this intense focus on what, to many, just looks like a giant island of ice? Well, the answer is all about its incredible and growing strategic value here in the 21st century. First things first, it's all about geography. You see, Greenland is basically the gatekeeper to one of the most critical naval choke points on the entire planet, the GIUK Gap. That stands for Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. For the U.S. military, and really for all of NATO, controlling this gap is, well, it's everything. It's how you monitor Russian subs and ships. It's how you defend the entire eastern seaboard of North America. It's about keeping those vital shipping lanes open. It's a huge deal. And hey, it's not just about what happens at sea. If you look at a globe from the top down, you'll see Greenland sits right on the shortest and therefore fastest air route between Moscow and Washington. That's why it's home to the Patuxent Space Base, which is an absolutely critical early warning and missile defense hub for the U.S. Space Force.
Okay, so if Greenland is that important, what's it worth? What's the price tag? This is where things get really fascinating because, depending on how you do the math, you get two wildly different answers.
So the first way you could value it is what we might call the what you get approach. You just add up the market value of all the known resources locked under the ice. We're talking rare earth metals, oil, gas, the whole shebang. And when you do that, you get to a mind-boggling number, $4.4 trillion.
But, and this is a really big but, most of that stuff is practically impossible to get to right now. The technology, the infrastructure, the harsh environment, it all means that the value of what's actually economically viable to dig up today is much, much lower. More like $186 billion.
Now let's flip to the other side of the coin. This is the second method, which values Greenland not for what's in it, but for where it is. Now this is harder to calculate, but some analysts have tried to quantify its strategic value, and they came up with a massive figure, $2.76 trillion. You're basically trying to put a price tag on national security itself.
And as weird as the idea of buying a whole country sounds to us today, it's worth remembering that this is kind of an old American tradition. I mean, look at this list. From the Louisiana Purchase to Alaska, the U.S. has a long, long history of just expanding through giant real estate deals. They even bought the U.S. Virgin Islands from Denmark, of all places, way back in 1917.
So how could the U.S. actually do this? How could they pull it off? Let's walk through the options on the table, which range from, diplomacy and cash to, well, something much, much more drastic.
So analysts basically see four possible paths. 1, the direct approach. Just offer to buy it. 2, you could try to woo an independent Greenland with tons of economic aid and diplomacy. 3 is something called a free association deal. That's where the U.S. offers protection and money in exchange for strategic control. And then there's option 4, the unthinkable one, a military invasion.
But here's the thing. Any of those peaceful options, they all run smack into one giant and maybe insurmountable wall, the people of Greenland themselves. Just look at this poll. An overwhelming 85% of them are completely against a U.S. takeover. Their answer is a clear, resounding no. And that sentiment is being shouted from the rooftops by both Greenlandic and Danish leaders. They have consistently and very forcefully rejected the whole idea. For them, this boils down to one fundamental principle: Greenland's right to self-determination.
Now, as totally shocking as all of this might sound, this is actually not the first time America has tried to get its hands on Greenland. In fact, If you look back through history, this is an ambition with some seriously deep roots.
Just take a look at this timeline. This is not a new playbook at all. It goes all the way back to Secretary of State Seward, right after he bought Alaska. Then there were talks in 1910, and then President Truman secretly offered $100 million in gold for it after World War II. The U.S. has tried and tried again to buy this island, and always for the exact same reason: national security.
And that brings us right back to today, to the immense stakes of this crisis, and how this whole situation now threatens to tear the entire Western alliance apart at the seams.
And this is where the stakes become, well, existential. Denmark's prime minister has put out an incredibly stark warning. Because Greenland is Danish territory, it is protected by NATO. Any military action by the US against it would mean one NATO member is attacking another. That would effectively shatter the most successful military alliance in history from the inside out.
So as the Arctic ice continues to recede and this great power competition really heats up, the standoff over Greenland leaves us all with a fundamental question for our time. In this new era, what is the true price of sovereignty? And in the end, who gets to decide?